I'm constantly amazed when we do these interviews, and my heart is just so full. You expect nothing wrong with it, all good. You expect a male, 60-year-old Caucasian walking out in these roles. And it's just, only happens in America. I mean, I love the world. I've been all over the world. I would never be who I am if I was in France. I'm not sure in Germany or Japan, we would not have the opportunities to have our full strengths acknowledged. And clearly, I can look at you in your eyes and see you're not letting anybody not acknowledge your full strength. You're completely transparent. In 2 minutes, I read you as somebody who's reasonably comfortable in your own skin. And you're the first CEO, female, black, in this role ever, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So normally I would take time to unpack. I don't think I need to do that with you. I want you to have a relationship with this global audience, and I want them not just to know who you are as a person, but I think they are best informed about you through what you do. The data that you have is unbelievable.
I could not be more happy, more proud, more full, as you have said, to be here. I have watched this conference. You all have had a parade of all of our clients on this stage. And for me to be able to talk about what is critically important, something that Thelma and Daniel Osborne taught me too many years ago for me to say publicly, that money matters.
Yep.
And our ability to make it, to keep it, to share it, and to pass it down is the only way that we as a people, because that's my first identity as a black woman, but we as business people, but we as a nation will ever survive, is if everybody can participate in this American dream, and that is rooted in money. So,
amen.
I have the pleasure of working at Edelman, which is a global communications firm. And we do brands, and we believe that brands should follow their purpose. And we believe that purpose and profitability go hand in hand. And after the murder of George Floyd, our clients fell into probably 3 or 4 different categories. One, those who were already doing it and then went for it.
No, hold on, wait a minute. No. See, she's so serious. She's like a corporate killer. Like she's going right in. Like you are no joke. I want people, before you get there, I know you got this. When I looked at you in the back, I saw your mother, I saw your father, I saw your ancestors. That's reasonable comfort in your own skin, which is very rare, that self-esteem and that confidence. The confidence is clear. You're competent. That's why you're in this role. But the self-esteem, black women in this audience, white women in this audience, Asian women in this audience, they need to know, Indian women, women and people of color need to know not just what you do, but how you did it. Where does this self-esteem, just spend 2 minutes on it, where does this self-esteem come from?
You know, my mother and father. Where do all good things come from? And my God. And I'm very comfortable talking about my faith as a corporate leader. You know, my parents raised us to believe that, and you talked about this earlier, not only can you, but you must do well and do good at the same time.
That's right.
And so I am very clear. So you talk about women in my position. When I am asked, you know, how did you get this role? What do you do? And I say, I'm not scared of money. I'm comfortable with money.
Say that again.
I like money. And I want everyone to have that comfort level.
Yep.
And for women who are in the positions that we are in, you have to be able to manage the money. You have to be able to make the money. And you have to, in a position like mine, talk to your clients about how to do the same thing. So again, this is a gift. We weren't even, so this is gifted because you weren't even supposed to be doing my interview.
Right.
And we saw each other in the back and we were like, all right, let's do this. And so, but I do want to talk about this research, and I want to talk about the things that we've learned and the things that we're going to do as a result of it.
Yep.
So one, our clients, like everybody else, were like, what can I do? And we were like, put money into the community, advance agendas, recognize, particularly in financial institutions, that there is systemic bias and racism in financial institutions. Straight up. It just is. And I don't subscribe to unintentional bias. I just don't believe it. I think it's the way that we let people off the hook. You know exactly what you're doing when you're doing it. And until you are held accountable, you will continue to do it. So our research found one, affirmation of a hypothesis. If you were thinking that there was systemic racism, I'm here to tell you that it is, and it's in every level and in every institution, everywhere. First finding. Second finding, did that come out?
It's fine.
But you
You're
can
fine.
still hear me. Second finding is it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you are like our good soldier Colin Powell, who had some money, or if you were like Cousin Tommy, who probably also has some money, but you are treated the same when you interact with the financial institution. So it doesn't matter whether you have money or not. You and your white coworker at the same time are looking at, I think I will refinance my house because the rates are so low. And then Tuesday, your white coworker's like, I'm good, I'm done. And you're like, well, damn, they haven't even called me back. And when they do talk to me, why are they asking me a series of questions that they're not asking you? And why do they keep asking me the same questions over and over again? And you going on and bought your second property, and I got more money than you do, but they still testing me and questioning me. So second finding, regardless of your income, it's an issue. The third one, and this is the travesty for me because we know how to make money. Right? First woman millionaire in this country, black woman. And a history of taking the money that we've created. I learned backstage that you've been making money since you were 7, selling something. So we know how to make money, right? But this third finding is that because of an absence of trust in institutions, we put that money in places where it's never going to grow, like the freezer.
Yes.
It's not going to grow in the freezer.
Yep.
It's not going to grow under the mattress, and it's not going to grow with your cousin Tommy either.
Yep.
And so the travesty of us taking that money out because we don't feel comfortable is loss after loss after loss. Because it doesn't go anywhere. And then the fourth one, and this is a big issue for me, particularly in communities of color and emerging majorities. Before I leave the stage, I'm going to have to talk about how we got to stop using the word minorities, because that's not who we are. We are emerging majorities, and sit in a room and use that language and see how the conversation shifts. Because you are no longer less than the other side, a little bit of what's left over, but we are emerging majorities as communities of color. But the painful part of that is that this impact, this racism that I'm talking about, has a palpable impact on our souls. You talked about soul, you talked about self-esteem. And the records of people that we talked to who said, I get so anxious, it just makes me sick. I know I have to go into the bank and I have to prepare for that. And it just makes me sick, and this was particularly acute with the Hispanic community. So in a world where we are struggling with chaos and challenges to our souls and our spirit, then you're so damn scared of having a conversation that you recoil and then you go back and put your money in the freezer. It's a self-fulfilling, horrible prophecy. So I never talk about problems unless there are solutions. One, everybody that you had on this stage, make sure we all hold them accountable that the workforce has to be representative. The workforce has to be representative. Number two, in addition to making sure that the workforce is representative, weed out that bias, that unintentional, but that real systemic bias that is in everything. Three, and some of your other speakers talked about this, look differently at how we are assessing risk. Assess risk for real people, not for your imaginary perfect person, but assess risk for real people. And go into it with an attitude of not, I can't, but I can if.
Right.
So I can if, and I've heard several of your CEOs, other CEOs talk about it. And then the last one is, as my mother would say, open your damn mouth when you see somebody. So when you walk into the bank, greet somebody. When you have an experience, treat that person like a human being.
Yes, yes.
So it's pretty simple. Respect me, see me, and I will give you my money. And I need you to help me grow it so I can give it and I can make a difference. So that's me.
Said, you know, as you were talking, I'm thinking how much you remind me of the silent but strong spirit of Coretta Scott King.
I'll take that.
Yeah, she talked, she didn't have as much emotion in her voice as you have, but it was that same strength, looked you straight in the eye. Her daughter, Bernice King, who's a friend of ours, has that same spirit today. So I commend you for speaking your truth and carrying it with you wherever you go. There's one thing you said that I want to make sure that people watching this broadcast are not fearful of, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. She said emerging majorities. We're not a minority. Fantastic, that's great. But I don't want my white brothers and sisters who may be 55, 60 years old, male, whatever, maybe high school education, sitting in rural someplace, watching this and seeing what she just said as a threat to them. That's wrong. There's enough room here for all of God's children.
Right.
I learned early to talk without, and I learned this from Ambassador Andrew Young, talk without being offensive.
Right.
Listen without being defensive. And always leave even your adversary with their dignity.
Yes.
Because if you don't, they'll spend the rest of their life trying to make you miserable.
Right.
It becomes personal. And very much like what you said about we responded to the pain by putting pain on ourselves, by putting oh, I'm not gonna give you my money, so we put it in the freezer.
Right.
Like that's doing something.
Right.
Right? You're just hurting yourself.
Right.
Right? But conversely, I don't want my white brothers and sisters to see this beautiful, bold commitment to just our fulfillment of our somebodyness as somehow a threat to them. When we grow the economy, everybody wins.
Good for everyone.
Yeah.
It's good for everyone. And, you know, what I say, you know, I run a company that is mostly white. You know, we're working on that.
Yes.
So that it is representative. I don't also use the word to diversify.
Yes.
The world and our companies and our stages and our actions have to be representative. Census Bureau is right out there. You know, they just shared the data, about 42%, so it should be representative. But this is not about moving people away.
That's
It's
right.
making the table bigger and
That's
inviting everyone to it. So I'm not trying to move you away, but I am trying to make room.
Move us forward.
Yeah, so that the table is representative of the real world around us.
Stephanie Rule was with us yesterday, and she said, of CNBC, she said, it's about expanding the table and adding a seat.
Right.
So there was a Citigroup.
Or making your own table. I mean, that's the other thing. You know, go ahead and make your own table, put your own table together.
Citigroup had a report during the pandemic that showed that that racism against blacks alone, in the last 20 years alone, not 200 years and not other races, just 20 years for blacks alone, cost the U.S. economy $16 trillion. And if we would just knock it off right now, just knock it off, the American economy would pick up another $1 trillion a year of GDP, which would, by the way, in 4 years pay for the stimulus from all of last year. Right. Just that one thing. And so I say in this example we're giving of people should not be afraid, if those with the worst bedside manner, racist in other words, help black people to succeed. If black people succeeded, even the racist wins.
Right.
Because because the economy is growing for everybody.
Right.
And that's why we love math. We love math because it doesn't have an opinion.
Right.
This is the CEO of, the chairman of Starbucks quote, Melody Hobson. I think that we're sitting in this moment in history, and I love that you bring not just your passion and your emotion, you bring data. Mm-hmm. What, as we wrap up, is there a piece of data that you carry around with you sort of in your virtual pocket every day that gives you hope for the future, that maybe is an indication of where we come from, but a hope for the future? Is there a data point or an inspiration point?
It's actually not a data point, John. It's a picture. It's a visual. And it looks kind of like this room. When we gather, and we gather with grace, and we gather with data and information, and we gather with positive intent, we get to a good place. And so the data is critical. It is, everything we do has to be rooted in it, but what drives me, what inspires me, is when I see rooms like this, and I know we can get to a good place. And I'm so excited to be a part of it.
We're so excited to have you. Ladies and gentlemen,